Hello, I'm Gary Hankey. Welcome to my tying bench. I'm going to demonstrate for you a little pattern I call the Floss Boss. There are similar patterns out there, but this one uses no thread, and it's really a manipulation of span flex, the same way we would manipulate thread in thread control by putting twists or turns and half hitches, maintaining flat positions, things like that. So all we'll do is just create a nice little chironomid pupa pattern for you, a buzzer pattern if you like. And we'll just get started here. So I'm just going to mount up a Hen's BL 254N. You can tie this on a straight shank hook, curved hook, whatever you like. I prefer personally straight shanked hooks. Chironomids hang both in a straight profile as much as they do in a curved profile. I just find I have better hookups with a straight shank hook, and especially so with a bent end point. I really enjoy bent end points. So we'll just take some span flex. Now, span flex, there's a multitude of products on the market. This is one I really enjoy. It's a little thicker. Some span flex will fray if you stretch it too much, some less so. So you need to sort of pay attention to what you're purchasing and see which properties they have. So we're just going to start the pattern just behind the hook eye, and we're going to do a catch just like you would with thread. Just maintain a flat position with the span flex. We'll take a half dozen or so turns and then throw in a half hitch. That frees our hands up if we need to. It secures everything. It's also built, sort of 1.5 layers. And now we'll stretch out the material again and proceed down the body. Just doing hand over hand. If you have a rotary, you can just spin it on with the rotary, maintaining a flat position. And by doing so, we keep the body extremely thin. Which is kind of the whole idea behind chironomid patterns. And it's easy to build up mass and bulk with some tying techniques, procedures, and materials. So now we've just done touching turns to the back of the hook bend, part of the way down, and again I'll throw in a half hitch at this point. So releasing my hands, this allows me to keep everything free. So now you can run a number of different tinsels, whether you run a tinsel or a mylar, a translucent mylar. It's up to you. You can run just a flat silver tinsel, a fine or a medium size, preferably a fine. It works a little bit better. But we have a pattern chironomid out here that's pretty popular. It's black and green in the pupil stage. There's also green and red ones. But in one of my local lakes that I like to fish, black and green is certainly not uncommon. And we just give it a little bit of flash with the tinsel. So again, we're applying it just as we would thread. And just kind of touching turns down the hook shank to where that half hitch is. Remove the tag end, and you can see all the twists in the tinsel just from wrapping it, so it behaves just like thread, just like the span flex did. And just untwist that, take the turns out, and then we'll just do some open turns coming quickly back up behind the hook shank or up behind the hook eye, and then we'll lay in a couple of half hitches that'll secure it enough to hold it in place. So at this point, we can just stretch out the floss again, do a couple of open turns. And I like to run 7 to 9 turns if possible. And I'll loosen off on the next couple of turns, and then the next couple of turns I'll loosen off even more. And you can see how it goes back to its original position in thickness, and this sort of creates an illusion of a taper. And that's one of the things I like about this pattern. I don't have to create a taper with any of the material other than create the illusion through the stretch or lack of stretch of the span flex itself. Now I'll just run touching turns for the thorax section. So this is 2.5 layers at the front end here now. And we'll half hitch here behind the hook eye again. I'll take a biot. There's a number of different biots you can use, fluorescent yellows. You can actually use a span flex, hot orange or fluoro yellow or picric dyed color, which will make a really good set of wing pads, or you can just run a goose biot. And what I've done here is I've just left the goose biot attached. I have 2 pieces here, and it's attached to the quill section, and I will trim this up just to make it even, and I will add it on to the far side of the hook and use the span flex to pull it under. And then run touching turns to the back of the thorax section. So that's 3.5 layers. And then I'll run a 4th layer now, moving back forward. And we've now not only have the tapered profile in the abdomen, but we also have a reasonable set of layers and tapers at the thorax, which should be proportionate, just with those few turns and layers that we built. Now I'll split my wing pads, or my wings. I'll bring one up one side, one up the other side. Just have to find it. Hold them in on top. I'll take a full turn. Use my finger to pinch it down in place. Stretch it out nice and tight. Full turn. A second full turn. I'll fold the wings back, wing pads back. Tight pull in the front for 1 turn, and 2 half hitches here at the very front. And my pattern is almost complete. I can snip off my wing buds, my goose biot. And then I can either leave this as is or even cover it with 1 or 2 more turns just to hide off any cut ends of the biot. And again, 1 half hitch, 2 half hitch. Give it a good pull, make sure it's nice and tight. Let it relax a bit before you cut it. Pull on it slightly, cut it flush, and it'll retract into place. Now all I do is reposition this in the vise, having everything at a bit of an angle, and you can see that the biots are all in place, centered, and I can coat with a nail polish or UV resin, whatever you prefer. And I cover right to the back of the hook here first. Then I'll invert this again, coat the other side. Bring it right up behind the hook eye. Make sure that's all nice and wet, nice and even. And I'll just let it somewhat dry and get tacky and in that position, and I'll just put it in a pad, just for a drying pad, something like this here, to finish it off. If I use UV resin, then I'll light, run a torch and give it a good shine with a light, and then often put it in those pads, take them outside and let them really dry. So anyways, that's just a fast, easy chironomid pattern. I hope you enjoy it. and hopefully learned a little bit about controlling materials, manipulating materials to get them to do what you want. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.